think one of the things that I mean, this is really an expertise of yours, but one of the things I think you can add a lot of value to our listeners are is in the vein of optimization, right? Um, you spend a lot of time really working with enterprise level companies globally. I mean, you're working with big marketing teams and big brands, helping them optimize revenue because at that stage of growth, that's a lot of they've got a lot of their systems in place, they got a lot of their tools in place, got their team in place, and obviously they're managing that and tweaking it, their different talent. But optimization is very key for a CMO, right? And that's what you're in there helping them do. I'm interested to like kind of get into this idea of like how can small business owners and CEOs of these small and mid-sized companies um, how can they think about optimization of revenue, right? Because a lot of the companies I'm working with, they have small teams. They may have one or two marketers, and they're growing, and they need to build their team. So what we're doing is putting in processes and systems, and putting together tools, and maybe even implementing an automation tool, like we talked about. But we're really not talking a lot about optimization yet. We're putting all of the mechanics in place so that we can get enough data that we can then optimize, right? And I find the optimization stuff very fascinating, and I think it'd be interesting for small business owners to know, like, what if they have stuff in place, right? If they're already running campaigns, let's say paid ad campaigns or even content strategies. What can they do practically to optimize what they're currently doing?
It's a really great question. And I'd say there's a couple things they can do at any level, even if you have, a small team or a small budget, or you don't have the time, especially to embark on all these activities. Uh, Optimization is kind of the second part. The first part I would say is the fallacy of optimization is what I learned from Jerry Weinberg, which
Hmm.
is the law of raspberry jam. The more you spread it, the thinner it gets.
Okay.
And so you really have to focus and
Yes, true.
prioritize, that and you can't do everything, with a small team. And so, like you said, automation and processes and systems are so important because of that. And so I think often there's this idea in small businesses that you have to do everything. You have to be on every social channel. You should be blogging. You should be doing email and ads and all this stuff. And I don't think that's true. I think you really need to focus. And I tell all my clients even to prioritize
Mhm.
ruthlessly and find out what are the things will actually move the needle, focus there, and then you can optimize those things rather than trying to do everything and not have time for optimization. So I think that's step one. Is before you can even optimize, you have to have the time to optimize and the resources to optimize. And often that means cutting away things that are not being conducive or productive or delivering any kind of results.
Definitely. And I see that all the time too for the work that I do. When I go in, I'm generally telling them to do less marketing because they're trying to be all to every platform, and they're trying to they spread themselves too thin. It's like you said. I think that's a great thing to mention as far as just fallacies that companies will run across, because it happens at all levels. I
Right.
know we've had this conversation a lot where I'll say, working with a client doing XYZ, and it's kind of funny because I know you probably don't deal with this problem, and you're like, well, no, actually, we still dealing with that problem, even though we're a bigger company.
Sadly, yes.
So
Yes. And I know
I
we've
think
talked
that's a
about.
fallacy too. I think that
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, yes, absolutely.
you
We've
go
talked
ahead.
about too shiny object syndrome, where companies are so distracted where they see, well, my competitor is blogging now. We should be blogging. Or they just ran this big
Mm-hmm.
Facebook ad campaign. Let's do that too. It must work. And it's not true. You have to stay
Right.
true to yourself and focus, and you can't be distracted by the next technology or platform, or we should be on TikTok. Well, maybe, but do you have the time? Do you have the resources? Do you have the people to do that? So it's really a
Mm-hmm.
matter of focus. And like you said, it's not being distracted, and it's also not trying to be all things to all people. So yeah, it happens, like you said, in big
Mm-hmm.
companies and small companies. Everyone is susceptible to this.